Project for today is going to be this Honda Harmony 215 self-propelled push mower. We've got some pretty kicked out front wheels on it. These had the plastic deck, so once they start getting old like this, they get brittle and they start cracking. This one's already got a brace in here. We'll maybe try to bolt that in a little bit better and then put a brace over on that side, make him be able to get maybe another year out of it or so. It's also, the self-propelled is weak on it, which sometimes these gears inside these wheels will get stripped, so we'll check those, but I'm thinking this one is it's just wore out, so it's not really gonna be worth fixing that self-propelled. It'll cost more than the thing's worth a lot of the time when you start replacing the actual transmission components and stuff. So we'll deal with this front end first and then start going with through the self-propelled system on it. I have taken the gears out of them before. It makes them push a lot easier, and you can just use them as a regular push mower instead of the self-propelled also, if the customer doesn't want to spend the money on it. So what I think I'm going to do is this brace on this side, I pulled down on it and I got it a little bit straighter now. So I think it's got two bolts up here, there's only one down here, so that's why it's able to pivot. So I'm not sure if there's enough room back here to get a nut, but I'm going to take and drill a hole. There's already a hole in the metal. I'm just going to drill through the plastic and we'll put a bolt through there if we can, and that should sturdy up this one, and then we'll kind of copy that for this other side. That's kind of doing the same thing. It broke around in the same spot here, but this one I'm not sure if I could maybe put a plate in here or something. It might sturdy it up through that bolt so it'd sandwich the rest of it together, but probably be better if we could get down into this with something, a piece of angle. Oh, it's kind of tough to get a drill in here. The hole's going to end up kind of angled. I might have to try to get an extension on this or something. I found this extra long drill bit, so that should reach in here okay now. Got a hole poked in there. We'll see if we can get a nut back behind that. So the furnace kicked on, so I just put that bolt through there and used a magnet to get that up through. I didn't record it with that background noise going, but that seems a lot sturdier now. It might be still a little bit angled, but it's better than it flopping around like it was. So now this side, I found this piece in the scrap that will kind of work. I cut the end of it off, so we'll probably have to enlarge this hole here. I'll take this nut off and this bolt, and then we'll put that up through like that, and then we'll drill holes down that way just like the other side is. But this one should fit a little bit better than that bracket that's made on the other side, just because it's a little bit wider and we have more space to put bolts. This one, you were kind of constricted to that little space, and they actually notched out this piece of the plastic, which them ridges actually give it strength, so you don't really want to take those out of there, especially when it's already getting brittle. So I think first I'll pull this off. We'll have to pull the wheel off, and then we can get to the other side of that bolt. These can get kind of worn or rusted on there. This one seems like it just has some old grease on it. We'll have to clean that up a little bit. So there's the bolt we were after. I'll try to leave it in there. So yeah, it's a little bit too far up our hole is, so I need to kind of just elongate that, and then that should slide on there. So I just drilled this hole, and then I took a burr bit on the Dremel and kind of ovaled it out so it fit in there snug, and it holds a little bit of pressure on there like that. So now we can throw this nut back on here, and then we got room to drill 2 holes here to bolt through that plastic. Does hang down here just a little bit, but it's still not below where the actual deck line is, so I probably want to squeeze it in a little bit too where we put the holes. So I might get a clamp or something to see if I can bend that in like that. I'm not really sure the exact positioning that it was at. I guess I might just leave it where it's at. I don't want to put any extra stress on that plastic since it's already brittle. There we go. I'll find a couple of bolts to put through there, and then this one should be good for a little while longer. They usually don't last too much longer if they get heavy use when they're like this, but it's just a way to keep them from getting junked. So I'm putting locking nuts on these. These are the kind that are, you can see they're just a little bit oval shaped. They're kind of just squished together a little bit, so it won't rattle out on us. Looks like we can fit them both in here pretty good. They're close together, but not so close that we can't get the washers and stuff on there. It is a little bit difficult to get the nut started though. I think I'll do the one over here first. Now it's kind of stuck in there. It's too close to the edge to get a socket on it, so I'll have to hold that one or tighten that down with a wrench. Need littler fingers for this one. Hopefully I can get a wrench on that still. There we go. Now one of them, this one's going to be the tricky one. Looks like I can't get a washer on that one. Put a little bit of anti-seize on this axle before we put that back on. So I've seen a few that were rusted on. You about cracked the deck just trying to get that off of there, so. Oop, wrong size. 9/16. Well, that seems like it's sitting pretty good. Well, I got it set back down. They're still a little bit tweaked. This one is a little bit at an angle, but it's a way better stance than it had before. And it's pretty sturdy when you push down on it. Before it would just bend as you push down on it. So now we'll get into the back here and we'll pull this wheel off. We'll pull both of them off, one on each side, and see what we got going on in there. The way it's acting, it'll pull, but it's real weak. It'll kind of stop, and I don't really hear it grinding in there, so I don't think it's that, but we'll take it apart and look just to see. I did forget to mention, I did check the belt on this, and I did readjust the cable that runs the self-propelled. I'll show you how to do that in a second here. We'll pull this wheel off and see what's under here. So this all looks fine in here. These had metal gears, so these weren't, a lot of them had a plastic gear that went all the way around, and those were the ones that were more known for sticking. I'll spin it around and check the other side. And that one looks okay too. I have seen where this plastic breaks and that gear is kind of flopping around in there. And you do want them to, they kind of ratchet and then grab. So that one feels like it's okay. So I think it's going to be in the actual transmission on this one. I'll fire it up and we'll check it out again, but the belt does look worn, but I'm not thinking that that's slipping as bad as our drive is. Usually a slipping belt, you'll smell it too, or it'll be getting hot. So what I'm going to do, since the belt is still a little bit suspect, it does feel tight and everything, but sometimes they get like a glaze on them when they're getting worn down. It looks a little bit burnt, so I'll fire it up and we'll try slipping it, and then I'll go back and see if that belt is hot. We'll know for sure that it's slipping. There's no other way to really get in there and see the belt as it's running to see if we're slipping, so we'll see if it'll fire up for us. Gear, we'll put it in second. We'll spin until I put a load on it. It'll kind of pull. So then, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see it too much, but that belt up in there is ice cold. It's not warm at all, so that's not slipping. So the adjustment for this cable here, there's a nut on each side here, and then basically the cable goes, you want it to go farther away if you're trying to tension it and closer if you're trying to loosen it. So this one is already adjusted pretty far out. I don't think I can really even go any farther. I know I readjusted it for him a couple years ago and it worked for a while. But it does look like it had the cable replaced at one point also, so, and it's moving freely, so it's not really anything to do with that. So I was thinking it was kind of odd that that belt was so ice cold like that, like it wasn't actually spinning, because even a good belt that's not slipping, it'll get a little bit warm when you run it. So he wanted me to sharpen the blade anyway, so I pulled the blade off, but I held onto the belt as I pulled the engine over, and I could stop the belt. Like there's a key sheared in the pulley up here, so we're gonna pull this off, which I already started to loosen that. Which these can be a little bit tough to get off, but this one looks like it's okay. There's a clutch here. That's what engages your blades. Oh, yeah, it looks like the pulley has kind of fallen apart and just wore completely off. This is part of the pulley. You can see how it's all worn out. And then up in here, I don't know how well you can see that, but there's some pieces of it. There's a washer here. Get some of this junk out of here. So this piece here that went up like that, that is what carries the key and locks everything in. And that pulley is just completely shot. And then the top half that sandwiches that to turn into a V pulley is just pretty much gone. There's just some little rings left in there. This is aluminum, so I'm sure with junk getting up in there and stuff, it ended up just eating it away over the years. This thing's got a ton of hours on it. But I think I have a parts one, so I'm gonna run out and look to see if that one is any good. I think that one just was the gears in the wheels that were bad, not this actual pulley setup. So that one got scrapped for other reasons, so I just saved it for parts. So I'll run out and get that, and we'll see if we can swap that pulley out. So this is the parts one. It looks like it should be mostly the same. I'm not sure if I can just take the center out with the whole blade and everything, or... Oh yeah. And this one looks like it might be a little bit different. That's a steel pulley instead of aluminum, but I think it's still pretty much the same. And the other half is up in here. I'll have to pull this key out. Get this belt locked off of here. There we go. That should be the other half of the pulley that we should have in that other one. You can kind of see it kind of sits in a groove like that and makes a complete pulley. So we'll kind of do the same thing on this. That one didn't have a washer between the two of them, so that's what's left of our aluminum pulley that was in there. That looks like it fits okay. Trying to work that back up and over. I gotta get it worked up. Worked up the edge of this pulley. I just turned the engine over a little bit to see if I could get it worked up there. Put our key back in. I don't think that was a washer. I think that was actually the center of the, this was actually the center of the pulley, and it kind of just, it sawed itself off. Because this one does have a little lip. But I do have to get that, the groove lined up. There's a groove in here that that pulley coincides with. I have to get it spun to line up with the keyway. Maybe like that. The key's not sitting in there right. Oh, I pushed the key out of there. There we go. There, I felt it snap up in there. Because you want to make sure that's not, you're squishing that at the wrong spot would be bad. And we'll put this back up in there, like that. And there's a washer. It's kind of hard to sandwich all this stuff at once. It's got to go into those grooves. There we go. Like that. I'll come back and check that with a ratchet. I'll go sharpen the blades and then we'll put it back on and test it out. I think we should be good as far as the self-propelled now, I'm hoping. So I did figure out that I needed to change this entire blade clutch setup. So you have this plate here, and then this is kind of a spring, and then that sits down like that. And then this aluminum pulley had these pads inside here to catch, but all of this was a little bit thinner, so I ended up having to put the whole assembly off that parts mower on there. Otherwise the blades wouldn't engage on it. So it's just one thing if you are swapping one from an aluminum to a steel from a different mower, you need this whole assembly, otherwise it's not gonna work. Well, the self-propelled will work, but the blades won't spin. So it's just something I thought I should add in here. So I got the blade sharpened up. This one's got a double blade setup. I just touched up the lower blade. The other one was pretty, well, sharp like new yet. should be ready to test it out again. Well, we'll fire it up again and see if it will pull us this time. And now it works really good. Yeah, that was definitely our issue. That thing will pull the thing right out of your hand now. So that was what was causing that slipping. That's the first one I've seen like that. Usually these Hondas, it's either in the wheels or the transmission goes bad. It's never usually that pulley like that. But this model must have had the aluminum pulley. Usually they have that steel one like I put on there. So this is the model here. HRM 215DE. So I don't know if that's a newer one or why they ran aluminum pulley on that one. There's another model number there that might tell us a little bit more. I don't know how to tell the year or anything on these, but these are really good machines. They were pretty expensive, but you kind of get what you pay for when it comes to these push mowers. You go buy a, well, it used to be a $99 Menards push mower, and they'd last a few seasons, but usually the decks would rot out on them and stuff. And the Briggs & Stratton engines usually outlasted the mowers on those too, but this is just a more of a almost a commercial version. Well, I'd like to take it outside and test it out, but it's pouring rain out there right now, so I think that's going to do it for this one. If you like this sort of thing, like the videos and subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you on the next one.